Hello everyone, this is part 8 on how to make a racing game in Scratch. In this tutorial, I will be making some improvements on the restart system and create an individual lap timer for races with multiple laps. If you haven't seen parts 1 through 7 yet, check them out, links are in the description below. Anyways, let's get started. So first off, I want to fix something in my checkpoint sprite. So over here, I realized that the checkpoint clones, along with the original checkpoint sprite, all creates clones of itself whenever the player restarts the game. However, we only want the original checkpoint sprite to create clone of itself whenever the game restarts. And the current problem is actually pretty serious because it creates lots of extra clones that the game doesn't need. So to fix that, let's go to events and drag a when flag clicked. And then I'm going to create a new variable and call it something like is original checkpoint. And this variable will check whether the object running the blocks is the original sprite or not. So let's select for the sprite only, and that's very important because we want the original checkpoint and its clones to have different values for this is original checkpoint. So let's select for the sprite only and then click OK. Alright, and after the flag is clicked, let's set is original checkpoint to yes. Because, of course, our original sprite is the original checkpoint. However, before we create the checkpoints, which creates the clones over here, we want to set is original checkpoint to no. And after I set this variable to no, all of the clones that are created are going to have that variable set to no. So that means only the original sprite is going to have is original checkpoint set to yes. And after the sprite creates all of these clones, we want to set is original checkpoint back to yes. And now to make only the original checkpoint create clones, let's go to control and then grab an if statement and let's check if is original checkpoint is equal to yes. Now let's drag this over the entire thing inside the restart. So right here. Alright. And now that should fix the problem. So I can't really show you like what changed because all of the checkpoints are hidden, but the game should work more smoothly now. But anyways, I'm going to hide the variable. And I'm going to do a test run. So yeah. Oh yeah, one thing, I actually want to make the car move and turn a bit faster. So let's go to the car sprite. And over here, let's change the max speed from 0.7 to 0.8. So the car is going to be a bit faster. And I'm going to make the car turn 3 degrees instead of 2.5 degrees. So the car is going to also turn a bit faster. And I think that should make the game a bit more fast-paced. So let's try it out. Alright, we're starting. And I'm not sure if it's too noticeable, but the car is a bit faster. And the turning is faster also. So yeah. And alright, nice. So we completed the race. But actually, I want the race to be more than 1 lap long. I think around maybe 3 laps is fine. And many episodes back, I added the feature, but I actually never used it recently. So I'm going to go to this sprite, where it shows the race complete. And over here, it says that as long as I complete 1 lap, then the race ends. However, if I want to make the car complete 3 laps before the race ends, I can just change this to if lap is greater than 3. So I'm going to try it out and see if it works, because I haven't tried this in a long time. So I'm going to check if the car can complete 3 laps and finish the race. Okay, so it seems like I only completed 1 lap and the race was considered complete, so that is really weird. Let's see. So for some reason, our lap counter variable is counting 10 laps, but it should count only 1 lap. So let's see. I'm going to go to my checkpoint sprite, and oh yeah, okay. So we have to change the when I receive restart to when I receive new lap, because we want the checkpoint sprite to create new checkpoints every lap, not only when the game restarts. So now this should work. I'm going to try again and see how it goes. Alright, one lap. Okay, as you can see, we are on lap number 2. Almost there, and lap number 3, final lap. And the race should be finished after this one. Alright, cool. So now the race is finished after 3 laps. So now that we know the multiple lap system works, I want to create individual lap timers. So pretty much what that means is that I still have this main timer over here, but every time I complete a lap, I want that lap's time shown like over here or something. So let's say if my total race time was like this amount for the 3 laps, and I had around 30 seconds for each lap, then it would show like 30 and then 30 and then 30. So it would show the individual lap times for all of the 3 laps over here. So to make that, let's duplicate our current timer sprite. So right click, duplicate. And I'm just going to drag it over here. Alright. And let's first remove some blocks. So first of all, I do not need this block because the main timer is already setting the time to timer. So let's take that out. And we do not need the race ended block. And let's take out this one. And let's also remove the generate number clones. So these timers will be creating clones, but we won't be using this specific block. So let's take this out, and then take the main block out. And let's see. I think we can keep this for now. Alright. So first of all, what we want to do is whenever the car completes a lap, then we want to copy the current time on the main timer and show the copied time like somewhere on the right side of the screen. So to do that, let's go to events and drag a when I receive new lap. So of course, whenever the player completes a lap, we want stuff to happen over here. So for this, I'm going to go to my blocks and create a new block. And I'm going to call this create time. And I'm also going to select run without screen refresh. So this means that all of the code runs at once under this block. So now I'm going to click OK. And under when I receive new lap, I'm going to drag the create time block. And now we want to first get the time it took to complete each lap. So let's say it took like 30 seconds to complete the first lap. So in this case, the time would just be the number on the main timer, which is 30. So the number 30 would appear over here. However, let's say the second lap took 25 seconds. Then the combined lap time would be 30 plus 25, which is 55 seconds, which would be shown on the main timer. However, I want to show 25 seconds on the right side of the screen over here, because that's how long it took to complete the second lap. So when it shows the time, we can't make it just show the time variable, which is the total lap time. We want it to show the individual lap time. So to do that, let's create a new variable. And I'm going to name it single lap time. Oops, single lap time. Alright, and then I'm going to click OK. And then under create time, I am going to set single lap time to the total time minus the time it took to complete the lap. So to take the time it took to complete the lap, we have to create another new variable and call it something like previous time, I guess. And then I'm going to click OK. And the previous time is going to be 1 lap behind the actual time. So that means if I subtract time and previous time, then it should get us the single lap time. So I'm going to go to operators and then drag a minus operator and then subtract time and previous time. And I'm going to drag this inside of the set single lap time. Alright, and this is going to be the time it took to complete each individual lap. And now I want the timers to show on the right side of the screen, so I'm going to grab a motion block and drag a go to XY block. And then let's drag a minus operator, drag this one, and then put it inside of the X. And since we want the numbers to appear on the right side of the screen, let's type in something around maybe 240, which is the right edge of the screen. And then we want to subtract the length of the single lap time number. So let's drag a length of block, and then go to variables and drag the single lap time. And now let's multiply this by maybe, let's see. So for our main timer, it multiplied by 12. Okay, so in our individual lap timer, let's also multiply this by 12. And then let's drag all of this inside of the right side of the minus. So what this does is that all of the timers are now going to be positioned on the right side of the screen. And now for the Y positions, I want the time for lap number 1 to be like right here, and then the time for lap number 2 to be below that, like over here, and then the time for lap number 3 to be below that one, which would be like over here. So since each time for all of the laps have a different Y position, we need to again drag a minus operator, and then let's go to variables and drag the lap variable. And oh yeah, so first we want to type in a number on the left side over here. So let's say something around 100. So that's around over here. And if we want each lap timer to go further down as the laps increase, then we want to subtract it by the lap multiplied by a certain number. So let's go to operators and then multiply it by something like 15. Alright, now let's put this on the right side and drag this back inside of the Y. Okay, so for the Y positions, the time for lap number 1 is going to appear at 100 minus 1 times 15. So that's 100 minus 15, which is 85. So it's going to appear somewhere around here. And then the time for lap number 2 is going to be 100 minus 2 times 15, which is 100 minus 30, which is then 70. So that's below the timer for lap 1, which would be around here. And then lap 3 would be 100 minus 45, which is 55, which is around here. So it sort of like goes down like that. Alright, so now we have the positioning. Let's drag this under the create time block. And now we want to actually show the digits, because currently we don't have any numbers that are being created. So I think over here we can just take this if-else statement, and let's drag this under the go to XY. So the numbers are going to switch their costumes, these ones, based on the digit of the timer. So let's see. Instead of time, we are going to change this to single lap time. So I'm going to right click on the time and then change the variable to single lap time and do the same thing for this one. So right click and then single lap time. Alright. And we also want to use the digits variable because we have to show all of the digits. So if you want the entire number to show, then we have to go to control and then drag a repeat loop, and then let's drag this around the if-else. So since this if-else makes a certain number switch to a costume, we want to repeat this if-else for the length of our timer. So let's duplicate the length of single lap time over here. So right click duplicate, and then I'm going to drag this inside of the repeat 10. So right here. And I also want to change the digits variable by 1 after each loop, because right now the digits variable does not change. So let's go to variables, and let's see. Oh yeah, one thing, let's make this digits variable for all sprites. So I'm going to actually delete this digits variable. Okay. And then create a new variable and call it something like maybe single timer single timer digit number. Okay, and then I'm going to keep for all sprites, and then click OK. So for this variable, I'm going to drag it inside of where the digits variable was. And then at the end over here, I am going to change single timer digit by 1. So this makes sure that it loops through all of the digits in the single lap time number. And oh yeah, I also want to set single timer digit number to 0 before the repeat. Alright, so now after each digit switches its costumes, we want to actually create the number. So let's go to Control, and then create a clone of myself after it switches the costume. And let's see, one more thing. Let's go to Motion, and then also change the X by a certain amount, because if we don't change the positions, then all of the digits are going to be appearing on the exact same place. And then that wouldn't be good, because all of the numbers would be on top of each other. So let's see, in here we made the numbers increase by 12 in the X position. So let's make this change X by 12. Alright, and I don't think we need this anymore, so we can delete this when it starts a clone. And let's see, we also want to go to variables and then set the previous time, so it's over here, to the current time. So that makes it so that the previous time variable is always one lap behind the time variable. And that makes us calculate the time it took to complete a single lap by subtracting the time by the previous time. And let's see. Oh yeah, at the beginning, I want to also show the sprite. So I want to show the original sprite, and then after it's done creating the sprites, I will hide it. And whenever we restart the game, we also want to reset the previous time to 0. So to do that, let's go to Events, and then drag a when I receive, restart. Then let's go to Variables, and set the previous time to 0. And also, we want to delete all of the clones, because the game restarts, and we want to get rid of the timers. So let's go to Control, and then also drag a delete this clone. Alright, so I think this should work. Let's check it out. So we have this, and okay, so it seems like the number 2 is appearing right here. I'm not sure why. Let's see. Oh yeah, okay. So I think it's because of this new lap. So we only want the timers to appear whenever the player completes a lap. However, the player has not finished a lap yet. But that's because since it creates the timer whenever the new lap is received, it creates a timer when the game starts. Because over here in the backdrop, when the flag is clicked, it broadcasts restart, which broadcasts new lap. So let's go back to our individual lap counter sprite, and then let's make it only check if the lap is greater than 0. So variables, if lap is greater than 0, then we want it to do all of this stuff. So since the lap is 0 when the game is first created, the timer shouldn't show. So let's check it out. Alright, so we have no more timer over here, and I'm going to first hide these variables. Alright, and I'm going to complete one lap and see if the timer shows up. Almost there, and done. Okay, so as you can see, there is our timer. However, I think it's displaying the wrong time. Let's see. It says 2:34.51. That's pretty weird. Okay, so I think I know what happened. We have to make sure to set the single timer digit variable to 1. And because I set it to 0, the first time it went in this repeat loop, it checked if the 0th letter of the single lap time was equal to any of this. And since there is no 0th letter, because all the letters start from 1, then it just made up some random number and pushed the rest of the digits to the right by 1. So now I think it should work. So let's check it out. Oops. Okay, let's try it out. Alright, almost there. And okay, cool. So we have the individual lap timer on the right side of the screen. I'm going to do 2 more laps. So on to my second lap. And now the second lap's timer should appear below the first lap's timer. Okay, so it seemed like that did not work. Let's see why. I'm going to go to my individual lap timer sprite. And let's see. Okay, so I think the problem is that the clones created by the original sprite are also running this block. However, we only want the original sprite to move the clones and create the clones and hide. So to fix this, let's create a new variable. And I'm going to call this is original sprite. And then I'm going to select for the sprite only. And this is going to be similar to what I did to the checkpoint sprite earlier in the video. So I am going to set is original sprite to yes when the game is restart. So that means we set the original sprites is original sprite to yes. And then over here, once it creates clones, we want to set the is original sprite to no, because we want the clones to have the value of is original sprite to no. So I'm going to drag this right before the create clone myself. And then after it's done creating all the clones, I'm going to set is original sprite to yes at the end. So right over here. Okay? And then over here in the when I receive new lap, I only want to run this block if the is original sprite is equal to yes. So that means this block only runs with the actual sprite. Now I'm going to drag this around the create time, and I think this should work. So let's try it out. Alright, so first lap, and we have our first lap timer. And second lap over here. Okay, so that seemed to work, but the number seems really large. It's including a ton of decimals. So let me fix that real quick. Let's see. Okay, so I think what's happening is that since the number shows up based on the single lap time variable, and the single lap time is subtracting the time number and the previous time number, Scratch does not include rounding, so the numbers are very, very precise. So that's why we have a bunch of numbers after the decimal point. So to fix that, we can just round the numbers. So let's go to operators, and then let's drag a round. And we can't just round the time minus previous time, because this rounds the numbers to the nearest whole number. So if we just did this, then there would be no numbers after the decimal point. But we don't want that, because we want 3 numbers after the decimal point, like this. Let me show you. See, as you can see here, we want 3 numbers after the decimal point. So to do that, we can drag a multiplication operator, and then multiply time minus previous time by 1,000. Because we want 3 numbers after the decimal point, so we first multiply by 1,000. So that moves 3 of the numbers in front of the decimal point, and then after that, we can round it, and then divide by 1,000 again. So that reverts back to its original number. And then I'm going to drag this back inside of the set single lap time. Alright. And I think everything should work now. So let's try it out. Alright, first lap, we have our timer. And alright, there's the second lap timer. As you can see, they're all rounded to 3 decimal points. And let's see. And awesome. Okay, so all of the individual lap timers show up and everything seems to work. And also, if we add up these 3 numbers, it should add up to the total timer right here. So I think everything works perfectly. And now, let me try restarting the race. So if I restart, okay, I think everything should work. So okay, so I just completed the first lap, however, the lap timer did not show up. So let's see what's wrong. Okay, so I think it has to do something with the checkpoint sprite, but first off, I'm going to go to Control, and then add a stop other scripts in the sprite under the when I receive restart. So this is just to make sure that all of these scripts stop and then like nothing runs twice when the game restarts. And now I'm going to go to my checkpoint sprite, and I think there were somehow too many clones created on the screen, so we have to make sure to delete any possible extra clones. So under the when I receive new lap, let's drag a delete this clone, and this is to make sure that all of the previous clones are deleted and then only the new clones are on the screen. So also, we want to go up and then drag a wait 1 second and put this after the when I receive new lap. And then I'm going to change this to wait, let's say like 0.01 seconds. So this just makes sure that when the new lap is received, all the clones are deleted before it runs this, because this creates the checkpoints. So we don't want to accidentally delete some of the newly created checkpoints. So yeah, now let's try it out. And oh yeah, so one thing I want to change actually is let's not do the when I receive new lap, but rather when I receive restart. So I think that should be better, and in that case I am going to take out the wait 0.01 seconds. So yeah, actually I'm going to try this out. So let's see how this works. Alright, so 3 laps, race complete, and then I'm going to restart and try it again. Okay, almost there, and okay, cool. So we have our lap number 1 timer. Now I'm going to try it again for the lap 2 and lap 3. Awesome. Okay, so all of the lap timers for the 3 laps work even after I restart the game. So yeah, anyways, now we have our individual lap timers. So we are pretty much done. Anyways, that's it for this video. If you enjoyed it, then give it a thumbs up and subscribe too, if you haven't already. This video will be the final video in this series, where I will just make some minor changes and do a recap on the game. Also, you can check out my project on my Scratch profile. Link is in the description below. Anyways, that's for this video. See ya!